community connections through that. Someone is, but that's not for me. But for me, it was when my dad went in for heart surgery and we formed a community around that. That was meaningful, right? So what we define meaningful. Upon joining this, it becomes one of the most meaningful parts of your social support network in your life. Think about you get diagnosed with a rare disease. Right now, you have the ability to connect with other people who have that disease around the world to share that experience. Right? There might not be in town, but around the world, someone's going to have that experience, and you can share that experience and connect over that. And that's a really meaningful community for people. I recently became a parent a couple of years ago. New parent. I mean, that is a new experience. Right? And
that's a big community.
And for a lot of people, that's a big change in your life. Joining a community for new parents where you can share the different things that you're experiencing and get advice. That's meaningful. Right? When you're a new parent, joining that kind of a community can become one of the most important things in your life. And in terms of travel this year, I've seen a lot of examples of this. So I went to North Carolina and visited Fort Bragg, which it's the biggest military base, I think, in the world.
Correct.
And I had a chance when I was there to sit down with a group of military spouses, right, who told me that when their partners get relocated from one base to another, it uproots their life. Right now they have to find a new school for their kids. They have to find a new home, a new job, find new friends in the area. So one of the first things that they do is go look up the Facebook group and community for spouses near that base. Right now, myself after that visit, okay, if we have 2 billion people who use Facebook, then why are only 100 million of them in meaningful groups? Why aren't we doing a better job of connecting more people to meaningful groups? So that now is the whole thrust of what I want our company to focus on. And we have this whole roadmap that we've worked to help people connect to meaningful groups that are out there, to give people who want to organize these groups the tools that they need to organize. And I think that if we can do that, then we can start to turn around this trend for the past few decades of people joining fewer groups in society and can strengthen and rebuild the social fabric. But this is a bigger issue, I think, than any one company can fully solve. And but I do think it's really important. I think we all need to do our part to work on this.
I think you're absolutely right. I see that too. Like, this is the whole bowling alone phenomenon of how people don't have those groups anymore. But I do like what you're talking about, because I notice on college campuses everywhere all these inner personalities of identities where people find people that and then use the space to actually physically gather a community.
Yeah.
I do have to ask you, we talked about communities at core is not just and so on. So let's talk about one of the things you've been asked a lot about recently, and that was Facebook and the role in elections. I am really eager to find out, what are you doing to prevent Russian or, frankly, any outside interference in our free democratic process in the United States?
And this is really important. And this is an area where I think we just have an enormous responsibility. I mean, a lot of people come to Facebook every day to help connect with friends and family. And while they're there, people want to share what's important to them and discuss the most important things that are going on. And it is absolutely our responsibility to protect the security and integrity of that platform so people can have those discussions. So let me talk for a little bit about this.
Please.
I think it's clear at this point that the Russians tried to use these tools to sow distrust, leading to the 2016 election and afterwards. And what they did is wrong. And it is our responsibility to do everything that we can to prevent them or anyone else again in the future. So there are things that we're doing. The first thing that I view as our responsibility is to help our government understand exactly what happened, right? Because Facebook is one piece of a much broader puzzle on how the Russians tried to attack the democratic process here. So what we tried to do, including in the testimony in Congress a couple of weeks ago, I directed our team, we need to be as transparent as possible to help the government understand from our piece of this what happened on Facebook, so that way they can put together pieces. What happened across other companies, other types of hacking that may have happened, information that the intelligence community has that we wouldn't necessarily have access to. They need to understand that whole picture so they understand, as a government, what the right way to respond and move forward is. But even without that, I think we invest a huge amount in security. And we already did, and now we're going to do even more, now that we understand that there are kinds of threats that we need to face. So already, by the end of this year, we have about 10,000 people at Facebook who work on safety and security. And I talked about this on our earnings call a couple of weeks ago, that we're going to more than double that in the next year, to now have more than 20,000 people working on safety and security, doing, both people review things and doing technology and tools, so that way we can more automatically find different things that are going on across the network. And the reason why I talked about this on our earnings call a couple of weeks ago is that we're investing so much in security that it's actually going to significantly impact the profitability of the company. And I just wanted to be really clear about this up front, because I think it's important that anyone who's going to be involved in the company, whether you're an investor, a partner, or an employee, you are priorities. Right? So I just wanted to be absolutely clear that our priority is protecting our community is more important to us than maximizing our profitability. And that's just a really important part of how we've always tried to run the company. And I think that is our responsibility here. But this is a new kind of threat, right? I mean, nations trying to online communities to try to subvert elections. And but I am confident that with enough work on this and collaboration with other companies and with the government, that we can make progress and make this much harder for anyone to do in the future.
I really appreciate your answer. I think that this is on everybody's minds, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it. And what you say also applies to things like globalization and technology. We've talked about the political threat, but earlier you alluded to it. Across the country, a big topic of conversation is what happens, what's the impact of, and I'm going to put them both together because they're so intertwined.
They are.
Not just the political, but the globalization and technology, the impact on jobs, what does it do to local economies? What have you found in this 1 year of reflection and travel?
Well, in most places that I've gone, globalization, technology, and trade have been big themes that have come up. And one of the things that really struck me is that when there's a disruption, right? So when you lose a job, that doesn't just impact you and your family in the short term, but it actually shapes how you think about what you want to do over the long term too, right? So let me give you a couple of examples, right? I was in earlier this year in Millinocket, Maine. It's this town that is just completely built around paper mill, right? So there was literally no town there before. This paper mill company came. It built housing so it could have workers. It built a school there. People in the community and in the neighboring communities knew that if they grew up, they could get a job at the paper mill if they wanted. So it really was very intertwined with the town. And then, for a number of reasons, including globalization and technology, right? Globalization because a lot of the lumber milling work moved a few hundred miles away over to Canada, and technology because now instead of just using wood, more people want to use synthetic wood products that are stronger and cheaper to build homes and other buildings. So for a number of reasons, there's this to the paper mill industry. And so I was talking to a number of the people there, and they're very enterprising and entrepreneurial, and they of course, if you lose a job, you're going to go and work on getting retrained to go do another job. But one of the things that really struck me was, a number of these folks were really afraid that the new job that they were getting trained for was also just going to get replaced by trade or globalization or technology. And I was listening to this, and I was thinking, hey, you just got retrained in something that's a very important modern job. It doesn't seem to me, if I know at least, like that's really a risk of being replaced over the long term, or for the foreseeable future at least.
Medium term.
But it really was shaping how people were thinking about it. And you know, and so one guy even said, you know, I wasn't even sure that I wanted to go get another job because I was so worried